All right, today we're going to tackle the single most overlooked but absolutely most critical part of trading successfully. And no, it's not some secret indicator or a perfect system. It's all about what's going on right between your ears. So take a look at this number, 80%. What do you think that represents in the world of trading? Maybe the percentage of winning trades you should have, the kind of return you should be aiming for? Well, it's actually something way more fundamental than that. And there it is. According to the classic book, The Disciplined Trader, a massive 80% of your success comes down to psychology, your mindset, and just 20% is your methodology. You know, the charts, the systems, all the stuff that most new traders spend 100% of their time on. So today we're diving deep into that 80%. Now, to really get a grip on that 80%, we first have to unpack this huge psychological trap that gets almost everybody. It's the reason the market can sometimes feel like it has a personal vendetta against you. Let's break it down. Think about the world we all grew up in. It's structured, right? Society has rules, it has constraints, it has clear rewards and punishments that are set by other people, at school, at your job, everywhere. But the market? It's the complete opposite. It's a totally unstructured arena with absolute freedom, unlimited possibilities, and it never, ever ends. We walk into this environment wired for one reality, and we're suddenly faced with another. And that fundamental mismatch, that's where so much of the failure begins. So, what happens when the market doesn't do what we expect it to, which, let's be honest, is all the time? Well, our brains have this little defense mechanism called perceptual distortion. To protect us from the emotional gut punch of being wrong or losing money, our minds literally start to filter and reshape the information we're seeing. We stop seeing what the market is doing, and we start seeing what we want it to be doing. And this kicks off a really dangerous domino effect. This distortion creates a total illusion, a fake reality where you convince yourself the market agrees with you. But here's the thing, reality always, always wins, and eventually the gap between your illusion and the market's truth gets so big that it just collapses. That leads to what the book calls a forced awareness, usually a catastrophic loss that just shocks you back to reality. And this cycle, it just builds fear. And once fear is driving the car, you can forget about making good decisions. So if our natural instincts are basically setting us up for failure, what's the answer? Well, it requires a complete paradigm shift, a total change in how we see our role as a trader. It's not about controlling the market, it's about controlling something else entirely. This is the first hard truth you just have to accept. You can't control the market. You can't manipulate it, you can't force it to do what you want. It doesn't care about you, your position, or your well-being. It's just gonna do what it's gonna do. So, if you can't control the external market, you have to turn your focus inward. The only variable in this whole crazy equation that you have 100% power over is you. Your perceptions, your choices, your actions. This is where a trader's real power comes from. And this reframes the whole objective of what we're even doing here. Your goal isn't to be right on every trade. That's impossible. And trying to do it just leads you straight back to that perceptual distortion. The real goal, the achievable goal, is to develop unshakable trust in yourself, the trust that you will always follow your plan and act in your own best interest, no matter what the market is throwing at you. Okay, self-trust sounds great, but how do we actually build it? It sounds a little abstract, right? Well, it might seem counterintuitive, but the path to freedom in this chaotic environment is actually through structure. Let me show you how this works. Here's the paradox. In a world like the market that has no external rules, creating your own rules is what actually gives you freedom. It doesn't restrict you, it liberates you. Without rules, you're just a pinball bouncing between fear and greed. But with a solid framework that you've built, you can navigate the chaos with confidence. So here's how you make it concrete. These 4 steps are the pillars. First, you create your own rules of engagement. Second, and this is so important, you predefine your maximum risk on every single trade before you get in. Third, you practice executing your plan without hesitating or second-guessing. And finally, you take total 100% responsibility for the outcome, good or bad. It's your plan, your action, your result. Period. And this quote from the book just nails the mindset shift. In the long run, knowing that you can trust yourself to consistently follow your rules is way more valuable than the profit from any one trade. Why? Because if you can't follow your rules, any money you do make is temporary. You're just going to give it back to the market eventually. It's all about process over outcome. Now, within this framework of rules, there's one that stands above all the others. You could call it the keystone habit. It's the one thing that supports the entire psychological structure of a successful trader. Let's be crystal clear about this. Losses aren't just possible, they are an inevitable, unavoidable part of trading. The book calls learning to accept a loss a skill. It's not a character flaw, it's not a sign you failed, it's a non-negotiable cost of doing business. Seriously, learning how to lose properly is the secret to unlocking your ability to win consistently. When you predefine and accept a small loss, it's a strategic move. It's a win. Why? Because that single action stops fear from hijacking your brain. It gets rid of that deer in the headlights paralysis where you just freeze in a bad trade. It lets you completely sidestep that painful forced awareness from a huge loss we talked about earlier. And maybe most importantly, by cutting that loss cleanly, you free up your mental and financial capital to be ready for the very next opportunity. You're clear-headed and ready to go. So I want to leave you with this final thought, a question to really chew on. Imagine shifting your entire perspective. What if instead of dreading losses and trying to avoid them at all costs, you made it your goal to become an expert at taking small, predefined losses? What if you measured your success not by your win rate, but by your discipline in flawlessly executing your plan, especially when that plan says get out? How would that completely change your experience of the market? Just think about that.